Right on time, ladies and gentlemen. From the studio in the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Cary, this is the Triangle Talk Show. And this is the way we start the show now. You like the other music better? Well, I imagine for about, I don't know, $500,000 or $600,000 I could afford to actually license using that music, so this is free. That's the way it goes. It seems awfully long, too. Is it over yet? No, it's not over yet. But I can't stop it early. I have no control of this train. I don't know how to drive it. Be over. Come on, be over. Be over. Yay, it's over, and now I can punch the... it's in the way. I can punch the buttons that have me on the screen. I'm Gary Pierce. I'll put up my name. There we go. I am Gary Pierce, and this is the Triangle Talk Show, episode 25. It's going to be sort of a travel show. Not quite like what you saw when Cindy and I roamed across the state of Hawaii. This is it's a talk travel show. So if you're only listening to the audio podcast, you're not going to miss much. I have a couple of still pictures coming up in just a moment. It's August 23rd, and the title is 6 Years on the Road. That's sort of a song by that name, isn't it? Something like that.
A little trucking song, I think.
Yeah, we'll find out. Here, joining me in the studio is, there we go, is an old friend of mine. His name is Jim Walter. We're going to call him the Road Warrior. Have you ever wanted to just chuck it all and sell everything you got, climb into an RV, and hit the road? The American dream. Everybody thinks about doing that. You did it.
We did it.
You did it. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. I want to talk about something else for a minute first, though. Boy, there's been a lot of stuff going on out there. We spent the afternoon. You guys used to live here in North Carolina. When I say you guys, there's Jim here who's on camera, and Dee, his wife, who is just off camera and refuses to talk for now. We may, I mean, I didn't set up a microphone or anything, but we'll probably get to the point where she can't contain herself, and we'll be kind of yammering from the background.
Either that, or we might have to take her blood pressure again.
We might have to do that. So it's been quite a week out there in the world, and you guys have done this road thing. The 6 years on the road is a clue. You now live in Florida, yeah. But you spent how long in North Carolina?
We were in North Carolina from about 1996 till we hit the road in early 2010. So about 14 years.
Okay, so not a North Carolina native. You're actually a Florida native.
Actually, I was born in North Carolina.
Okay, so you're a North Carolina native.
Yeah, but I didn't. I've never actually grew up or anything in North Carolina because we moved to Florida soon after.
Okay,
so I was raised in Florida.
Yeah. So you're back visiting.
Yeah, back visiting
me and not Cindy because she's not here, and other friends.
Back visiting some friends and you.
Yep. And we spent the afternoon over at Wendy's talking politics. Talked ourselves out of just about all the politics. But we'll talk a little bit about it. And that's what's going to raise Dee's blood pressure and get her to want to join in on the show. I'm not going to talk about the national stuff. Obviously, the stuff with the Cohen and what's his name? The old
Manafort.
Manafort, yeah. The Alzheimer's is kicking in early tonight. That's in the news. That's really big time in the news, and things happened. Cohen pled guilty to 8 counts of being a really bad guy, and I think it was 8. And Manafort was convicted. He pled not guilty, but it got convicted of 8 counts. So all of that is interesting, but doesn't really move the needle forward very far. It doesn't move the timeline forward very far because the results of that, the inevitable or whatever is going to happen because of that, hasn't happened yet. It's like that NBC News parody on Saturday Night Live where their anchor's interviewing Trump, and Trump admits that he fired Comey because of the Russia scandal. And the anchor says, that's it. We got him, right? We got him. He admitted it. We got it. What? Oh, nothing matters? Well, this stuff might matter sometime, I suppose, but Trump didn't quit because of it. And the meme came up on Fox News pretty quick that it doesn't matter that Cohen admitted that he did something wrong that Trump participated in. First of all, it wasn't a crime, and second of all, Trump didn't do it, and third of all, even if he did, truth's not truth. So they're not worried about that yet. To me, this is a lot like following Watergate back in the early 70s. I was in my early 20s back then, and I was paying no attention. It was too much, and I had family stuff I was doing, and so I really didn't pay very much attention to Watergate. Now it's fun to be able to pay attention. I also listened to that podcast called Slow Burn, that in its first season, it's in its second season now. It's from Slate. And Slow Burn, first season, took you through Watergate. And I'd seen all the President's Men by the fifth or sixth time I watched it. I kind of understood what was going on, read the book and stuff. It took a long time to understand. Slow Burn goes even deeper. So if you didn't live through Watergate, or you did like me, but you really weren't paying very much attention, it's pretty cool. And obviously the parallels to what's going on now with Trump are striking, but the story's not over yet. And so we got Watergate where the story's over and things keep ringing bells, but we're at the point where the story's not over yet. And so Trump is still president. He hasn't been impeached. We don't have all the evidence. We don't have very much of the evidence. Mueller's collecting the evidence. Fox News keeps saying, he should tell us what they know. Well, he will. Relax, Hannity. But you'll get the story when he's ready to tell the story, and there may be something there, and there may not be something there, and we'll just have to find out. We've got the first little bit with Manafort, and not very much about Trump in there. We got the first little bit. We got a lot from Cohen, a lot about Trump in there, but according to Fox, it doesn't mean anything yet. So we'll see. Got to wait for those shoes to drop. This is a centipede's worth of shoes that need to drop. But I didn't want to talk about that because that's the national stuff. I want to talk about our local stuff, our local story, which is almost kind of overridden by the national stuff that's going on, is the toppling of the Silent Sam statue. So earlier this week, students at, they're students if you listen to the lamestream media, but if you listen to the conspiracy media, I'm sure that they were outside agitators, paid outside agitators that came in and knocked the statue down. And then the commission that has been figuring out what to do about, I don't know if they're ever going to talk about that statue. The commission was about some statues that are downtown Raleigh that are commemorating the Civil War, is what to do about those. Governor and a lot of people want to move them out of a celebratory position in downtown and put them someplace, a battlefield, a cemetery, a museum, someplace that they're not gone, but they are not standing up there as if the state is still proud of its Civil War record. And so you've got the two sides that are battling back and forth on that. The folks that want to take them down and move them say that they, whatever they're celebrating, we ain't proud of it. They're celebrating, attempting to maintain the institution of slavery. And the other side is saying they are celebrating our honored dead ancestors. And how do you square that circle? Okay, Jim.
Thanks for that nice softball question.
What would you do?
Well, the way I look at it is, I kind of fall on the side of the ones who kind of want to preserve the heritage, because there's a lot of people in the South that, they're the direct lineage of the people that fought and gave their lives in that war.
Yeah, I am of course a GD Yankee.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those GD Yankees in the South now too. Not saying that's what's driving any of this or anything, but the way I look at it is, for 150 years those statues have been there, and it's never been much.
Actually, no, they've been there since the early 1900s.
Well, okay, then say 100 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you want to be accurate on this show?
Well, I mean, that's part of the argument, is that they weren't put up to commemorate the Civil War at the end of the Civil War. They were put up to push the concept of Jim Crow.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. But the issue that I'm trying to get across is, it's never been much of an issue until just lately, with the stuff we have going on in society.
Sort of depends on who you are.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, it's never come to a head until recently. And I will compromise to the fact that I think that if they want to bring them down, find somewhere else to put them. If they want to make a memorial park for them or whatever, with private funds, that kind of thing, then I'm all for that.
I'm thinking just down the road in a museum of history of some kind.
Yeah, that type of thing. If you want to get them off of government public lands, that kind of thing. But the people in the South don't look at the Civil War as something like a foreign war that we lost. They look at something. The term that I like, that I've often heard, is those. What do they call it? The war of Yankee aggression, that kind of thing. Yeah. And those recent unpleasantries.
War between the states, anything but
anything but a war against culture. They don't look at it that
anything
way.
But something they lost.
Yeah, exactly. So I
look at all the countries that we did defeat in major wars. Look how well they're doing.
Yeah.
Y'all would have been better off just having lost.
That's like remember that movie, The Mouse That Roared? Did you ever see that movie?
Yes. I don't remember it real well, but
Peter Sellers is in it. It's about a little tiny country, and I forget the name of it, but it's a little tiny country.
Was it a real country? Was it Liechtenstein?
Yeah, something like that. It was sort of about the size of Monaco.
Yeah.
And they were going.
Well, you know how fierce those Monaco people are.
But they thought they were doing bad economically, so they thought they'd take on the United States in a war. And they'd lose the war, then they'd be built up into this big giant
they got this
country.
Little football-sized nuclear thing, I guess.
Something. I don't remember many details, but the spoiler alert: they won the war. Yeah. They said, "Now what do we do?" But it's a cute movie. It's an old movie, but I'm wishy-washy on this. I could say I'm a Southern product of the South myself, being born in North Carolina, raised in Florida, and everything. So I can see wanting to preserve your heritage and your parents. That might
if your heritage is deeply offensive to a large segment of the population because your heritage is honoring an institution that enslaved their great-grandparents. I mean, not told them that they had to sit in the balcony of the movie theater. That came later. Yeah. You got to work on my property and pick cotton, and you don't get paid, and you're not allowed to leave. And by the way, if I want to, I can sell you. Yeah. That's the heritage. There's more to it than that. Yeah. There's states' rights and being proud, things like that. But that one aspect of it, that is kind of a killer deal.
That's the hot button issue. In fact, when I remember when I was in school, our teachers hammered into us. Our history teacher said the war between the states wasn't over slavery; it was about states' rights. Yeah, that was what they used to teach. And the pendulum swung the other way now. So by golly, it was about slavery.
And I was up north, and it was more nuanced than that. But it was the concept was introduced as much as I remember about high school and college history, which is not all that much. Yeah. But I do remember my college U.S. history class, and I remember taking an exam, and the exam was covering the period between the end of the Civil War and the early 20th century, and the question was, what was the major thrust of American history at that point? And ooh. Westward expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reconstruction?
How about Reconstruction?
Not so much.
Yeah.
And I got an A on that test.
Yeah.
That did not, the history teacher and the curriculum did not want to talk about how Reconstruction fell apart, the compromise, whatever that was, and the Jim Crow era. That it did not cover that very well.
And if I recall, wasn't the president right after Lincoln? Was it he went about some views he had on Reconstruction that almost got him thrown out of office or something like that?
I don't remember that. I got to go study up a little bit harder. But
I shouldn't bring things up I can't remember details.
Yeah, but I mean, basically, what I do remember, and this is from more recent study, is that for a while Reconstruction was harsh on the South. It was not like Japan and Germany and Vietnam. Well, Vietnam not so much, but it wasn't like those mouse that roared countries that wanted to lose to the United States because they knew they would be rebuilt. The South was oppressed for a while, and then they reached this deal because there were some other things that the government needed to do, which basically said, y'all take care of your own little race problem down there.
I mean, they didn't have food stamps and welfare back then?
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay.
So that was that compromise.
Yeah. Well,
I still need to do some more historical study.
Well, you've done a lot more than me, and I'm not well versed enough in it to give any really intellectual type answers and everything. But I have enough South in me to know that Robert E. Lee was a pretty doggone good general, even if he was on the losing side. But he was considered a pretty good general, and there was some pretty good people that fought. They were misguided and everything,
they didn't,
but they
and many of them didn't own slaves, and many of them were conscripted, and they had to go fight.
And they went to West Point, a lot of them. So
so it's not. Can I say it's not black and white?
Yeah, I guess you can.
That doesn't really work very well.
Yeah,
but
you're not a slave to any one theory.
There's nuance to the argument.
Exactly.
And yet you don't hear any nuance because today here in the divided states of America, there's no nuance.
All I know is the older I get and the more I do think about history and what this country's gone through, the more I think about Americans shooting and killing other Americans. It just gets more abhorrent to me every time I think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm just, thank God I didn't live back in that era. Yeah. I really do.
Well, we have Americans shooting and killing Americans today. I thought maybe that's where you were going, but it's on a much smaller scale, but on it's still a scale that's way too big. Well, what we ended up with was Jim Crow segregation in the South. The North, I grew up in the North. The North was segregated. It wasn't as officially segregated as the South was, but I was born in Detroit in a neighborhood that was blockbusted shortly after we left. I was 8 to 10 years old at that time. I don't know if my dad moved us out at the leading edge of blockbusting or if that all happened a few years after we left. I don't really know the timetable. We moved to a suburb, and then we moved to Chicago. When we moved to Chicago to a lily white suburb, I went to a high school that had 4,000 students in it, maybe 4 or 5 black students and 1 black teacher, and those were his kids. And even today, that area of the suburbs of Chicago, the northern suburbs, is 1.5% black. There weren't any red line laws on the books, but this was the mid-1960s. I'm sure that housing was redlined. If you were a black person, you wanted to move into the suburb that I grew up in, Winnetka, Illinois, you'd been pretty hard put to do that, even if you were wealthy. So, plenty of it existed. It was just not as we didn't have water fountains that were marked white and colored.
Mm-hmm. I remember seeing those. I really do. Back in late 50s, very early 60s, they still had some of that.
Not even so early 60s, still going in the mid 60s. Yeah. The movie Hidden Figures. You've seen that? Yeah,
good movie.
So that's NASA in Alabama, I think.
Huntsville.
Yeah, and the movie was set probably in the mid 60s, I think. Yeah. So
trying to go to the moon.
Yeah, so I mean that is the heritage, and if we got all the way to the the pushback over those monuments didn't start this year. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm not sure how many years you want to go back, but it's let's say the past decade or so. If that's when a lot of noise was being made, then what does that make it okay that it was that those statues and those monuments still celebrated to a great extent that culture? And now we can't complain because we didn't complain early enough. Has the statute of limitations run out on the statues?
The statute of limitations.
Yeah, the statute of limitations, has that run out? Well, I think we're saying probably is not.
Yeah.
So now there's a big argument. Well, what do we do with the students that tore down Silent Sam?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Silent Sam? It made the news down in Florida. Right?
It made the news down there, but to tell you the truth, I'd heard the report, and the next day I found out it happened in Chapel Hill. I was kind of watching it on the news, and I heard it was in Chapel Hill, and I don't know the details. I know there was violence involved, which, you can protest all you want, but, you shouldn't be bringing violence into something like that.
So that word violence, has been brought up.
Yeah.
Nobody got so much as a bloody nose or a black eye.
Well, then what violence was it? Like I said,
so that's the question. What was the violence?
I just saw the report in passing.
Yeah.
Was that the fake news reporting that or something? Or?
Well, it depends on how you want to define violence.
Yeah. Well, fighting, I think, is violence if you're fighting.
Yeah. I mean, throwing a rope across the top of a statue and pulling it off of a pedestal, you're violent to the statue. But the
vandalism.
And that's what it is, vandalism.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
As far as I can tell, there was no violence.
Really? Okay.
The police are being inspected now because they did not stand in front of what was going on. They stood behind it. There were a small group of Civil War heritage leaning people, Stars and Bars, Confederate Flag, that contingent of our society. They were around, but there weren't enough of them to make a deal. Evidently, this was pretty well coordinated. They managed to get the statue covered up with some banners while they were preparing to pull it down, so no one could see what they were doing. And then it was a surprise to everybody. As soon as the banners dropped, the statue was pulled over. In fact, I think it may have pulled over before the banners kind of went down at the same time.
Is it the kind of thing that if it would have happened anything except that statue, it probably wouldn't have, in the middle of the night, it probably wouldn't have even been reported on?
Well, we've got a little history here of another one having been pulled down in Durham in even more public way. So, but the fight over what should happen to them has been going on for a while. Yeah. Now, we had the state commission trying to decide what to do with these things. And their report came out this week. Their report said that we don't recommend moving them, but that's because there's a state law that was instituted by our very, very Republican legislature in 2015, a couple of years ago, that said you can't move a historical monument except for very limited circumstances. And they said it doesn't meet these circumstances. But they recommended modifying that law and then putting them in a context that lets people know more about what went on than what the statues themselves would say. This is going to make some of the territory on the Capitol grounds pretty crowded. I personally think the idea is move them someplace.
Yeah.
Don't make them go away.
Yeah, that's my feeling.
Yeah, move them.
But I'm just glad all these controversial things are happening in North Carolina, because we never have any controversial things in Florida. No, nothing ever happens in Florida.
No, it's very quiet. It's very peaceful down there.
Yeah. Did you see the guy carrying the alligator through the convenience store down in Florida?
I did not somehow miss that.
Guy with about a 5-foot alligator on his arm running through a convenience store, only in Florida. They got a website for that, only in Florida.
Did he buy it in the alligator section?
I don't know. They arrested him for cruelty to the alligator, I think it was.
Yeah. Anyway,
But anyway, this whole thing, I think, it's like anything in our society throughout our country's history. Big cultural shifts and cultural tectonic plate moves like that, they're basically messy, and they're sometimes violent and everything, but things have a way of settling out over the years and everything. Like look at the race wars back in the 40s, 50s, 60s and everything. And I'm not saying we're where we should be racially and everything, but at least we don't have, colored and white bathrooms anymore. I mean, we're getting better, but things just take time, and it's a messy change a lot of times. It really is.
You and I are in a difficult position to talk about that.
Yeah.
We both won the world's biggest lottery. We are white
Yeah.
American men.
I agree with you. Yeah.
And although we won the world's biggest lottery, that doesn't make us rich. It doesn't make us eminently successful. It gives us a much greater opportunity to be that than anyone else.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make either of us rich, and neither one of us are. Mm-hmm. Doesn't make us powerful or famous. Tried to become famous. Wouldn't mind becoming rich. Doing okay, my wife makes all the money. I personally am poor as a church mouse. She's doing okay. She lets me come along for the ride. So it's truth in advertising.
Yeah.
We don't have too much to say about that. About look at all the progress that has been made in civil rights in society. It's easy to say we can be damn proud of the progress we made when you're sitting on top of the layer cake.
Yeah.
If you're at the bottom rung, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
They'll look up at us and say, you do not understand.
Yeah.
You got no right to say, look at all the progress we made.
Yeah.
Because I am still being discriminated against.
Yeah.
I can't get the same jobs. I can't live in the same houses. To a much greater extent, of course. All of our minority communities can. But do they have this? Are they on par with us? Would you say that they have the same opportunities today that we do? They're closer.
Yeah, they're closer.
Well, maybe lots closer.
Yeah.
But unless they're at the same level, then it's very difficult for me to say, be happy with your lot. It's getting better. Be patient.
Yeah.
It's only been 150 years.
So do you think
patient.
So do you think we should have government-sponsored advantages for minorities like that, for things like college admissions and loans?
Reverse discrimination?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think that you're leveling the playing field is not enough. The playing field has to be tilted for a while. Because how long was it tilted? How long was the playing field like this for people, where we were up here on this end and they were down there on that end? How long did that go on?
Yeah.
How does just leveling it out, how does that fix things? Be patient. Be patient. We are going to let you have more rights and more opportunities, a little bit at a time. It's a trickle down as time goes on.
Okay.
End of rant. Now we all may want to get out of town.
Now that you've chased everybody off before they can hear about my travels.
they're here for a variety show. Yeah. Ed Sullivan did the spinning plates, and then he got Elvis out, and they wouldn't show him his hips and stuff. Those are the spinning plates, and now the Elvis. You got out of town.
You mean we left here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking as we introduced the show, talking about how the American dream. Just chuck it all. Get on the road.
Well, it's one American dream, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
After you have the cat, the house with a cat in the yard, that type of thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of American dreams, but that one about getting out there, is sort of a, it's a Norman Rockwell picture.
Yeah.
And yet very few people actually do it, but some people do.
Yeah.
And you are a rare sample of those people that do.
Yeah, and I gotta say that it wouldn't have happened without my wife, because she's always been kind of a gypsy. I spent 26 years in the military, in the Air Force, and she's one of those very, very rare military spouses that enjoy moving from base to base.
Where all did you go?
Well, we've been stationed in Mississippi, in Florida, in California, in Illinois. I was in Thailand or in Vietnam. I did my duty in Vietnam during in 1972 and 73. So we've been all over the United States. And
You don't look 95 years old.
I know, really, yeah. 26 years we were in the military, and we moved all over the United States, but we never moved overseas as a family, and that was always a regret of mine.
So your overseas deployment was solo.
Yeah, it was actually Vietnam duty. You know, you get credit for serving in the Vietnam War even when you're in Thailand. That's part of the theater of operations.
Yeah. Were you married then?
Yeah, I was married. Had an
So you just sat at home?
Yeah.
Worrying?
Yeah. I had a 7-month-old son when I left, and he was 19 months old when I got home. Had no idea who I was.
But you could Skype.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Our technology was getting the little Panasonic cassette player with little piano keys on the end, and she'd make cassettes of him talking and stuff and send them to me, and we'd send tapes back and forth and letters, snail mail. That was it. No email, sitting there chatting back and forth with bombs going off in the background. None of that stuff like they do nowadays. But getting a little off track there. But she has a little bit of a gypsy in her. And after my military service, I worked for 14 years for electric utility. And she always...
In North Carolina.
In North Carolina.
Eastern North Carolina.
Started out as Carolina Power and Light. Then we became Progress Energy. And now I understand it's Duke Energy.
It is.
Yeah. So we were swallowed by the 700-pound gorilla.
I believe your pension is probably direct deposit, so you don't see the name on the check.
Yeah. No, I got it in lump sum.
Oh, smart.
Yeah. But she'd always kind of thought it'd be kind of neat to have an RV and travel around a little bit, because she did with her parents a little bit. They had a van. They were like van people. They'd get in a van and take off for a weekend or whatever, and that type of thing.
I believe that a polite way of saying that you guys lived in your car.
Yeah. But they took trips in it. But we visited some friends of ours or friends of hers. I didn't really know them, but they were in the Raleigh area, staying at the RV park here in the Raleigh Fairgrounds. And we went and visited them one day. They were living in a fifth wheel trailer, like we ultimately had. And
I guess we need to define what a fifth wheel looks like. We got a picture.
Oh yeah, yeah. Show them our rig. Yeah.
Well, to make sure that I'm actually getting to the right thing. Yeah.
There it is. Yep. That's our that was our home for 6 years. Everything we owned was in that trailer.
So it's called a fifth wheel because 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's an eighth wheel.
Yeah.
What's the...
But it's only on the trailer. There's 4 wheels on the trailer. Okay. And then that tongue thing that's hooked up to the truck is considered the fifth wheel, because when the truck turns, it turns. That's the nearest I can get as to an explanation of why it's called a fifth wheel.
All right. But that's as opposed to something that wouldn't have a truck pulling it. Exactly. It would have its own cab.
Yeah, a motorized.
Like a bus.
RV. Yeah, motorized RV. Motor home. That's not a motor home. That has to be towed. It's a big, giant trailer. It has slide outs that come out and everything, and it just makes it a total of about 300 square feet of living space.
Okay, so the slide outs that come out there, like this whole thing, you can sort of see the lines on the edge.
Yep.
And that would come out a few feet, one on the other side, giving you more living space inside.
Nice living space.
Once you were someplace where you were stopped.
Yep. But when we visited these folks, I looked around at the rig, how they were living, and they were describing traveling all around, staying different places. And we left to go back home after spending the afternoon with them. And now, as I was driving home, I told her, that'd be kind of fun to try that. And I thought she was gonna cry. She was so happy. So that's how the seed was planted.
You were, it's kind of fun, and she is, let's go.
Yeah.
Why didn't we go yesterday?
Yeah, so I started the internet research and everything, and started researching the lifestyle. And
you started the internet. You started the internet reasreach agency.
Yeah, I started internet research.
Oh, I was going to say so you're the one.
Yeah. Me and Al. But the bottom line is, we thought we'd give it a try, because I knew my time was coming. We're getting close to retirement. I retired a little bit early. I retired at 59 years old. I managed to put enough in our 401k at Progress Energy, trying to make up for lost time, because you never get to save much in the military. And we were able to retire a little bit early, and I ended up getting a truck. I got the truck first, because I knew what kind of size truck I'd need. I'd need a big truck. And I got the truck. It was used, and then we ordered the fifth wheel, ordered it the way we wanted. This big, nice Nice thing with dual pane windows and the built-in generator and 2 air conditioners and everything we need to make it a nice living full-time unit. They call it a full-time unit. People that live in their RVs are called full-timers. So we got that order and everything, and we took delivery of it in December 2009 and went over to over by Hickory at a big RV dealer about 100, a little over 100 miles, I think, from here. And the guy gave me about a 10-minute driving lesson on the thing. Said, here it is. And we headed home. And we came home and stayed in Raleigh here for a little while.
Did he teach you how to back it into a narrow parking place?
No, we did not. He did not. And
so I guess I keep forgetting that the substantial part of the audience is audio.
Yeah.
So it's like towing a big boat.
It's 38 feet long.
Yeah. It's like towing a giant boat.
Yeah.
The back of the pickup truck has the hitch. It's not a ball hitch that's on the back of a pickup truck.
It sits on top of the bed of the truck, the front of the.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It's about 12.5 feet high,
it's like
38 feet long.
Docking the space shuttle with the space station.
8 feet wide, 38 feet long, about 12.5 feet high. We got it home okay. I got it home okay. We set it up, lived in it a little while, so I thought we'd plan our first trip in it. We'd go to my mom's down on the coast.
So you hadn't moved out. You hadn't moved out yet.
No, we're still living in our in our apartment. So we thought we'd take it down east to my mom's in Morehead City, about 3 hours away. So we get it all packed up. I'm following the little checklist they gave us to how to pack it up and bring the slides in, hitch it up and everything. We get it hitched up. It took us about 3 times longer than it normally would.
Way longer than what the guy showed you when you first tried it.
Yeah, but we jump in the thing and we head out of the campground and everything, and I go make a right turn on Highway 70 there. We had it over near Clayton is where it was, and we pulled out on 70. I hear this big clunk behind me, and Denise, my wife, who was following me in her car, we had ham radio so we could communicate. She says, "Uh-oh, not good. Pull over." So I pull over and I get out. And what happened was there was a culvert that ran right at the exit of the park, and I put the whole right side of the rig down into that culvert, and just tore the whole bottom edge of it off, and the steps were torn off and everything.
Okay, so
that was our very first trip in it.
You had one trip back from where you bought it to home.
Yeah,
that went inconsequentially.
Okay. Yeah,
and then the second trip
where we actually wanted to go somewhere,
you destroyed
our
the
shakedown cruise. We put it in a ditch. So I cannot overestimate the level of depression, disappointment, sadness. We're sitting there actually thinking, can we do this? And it was still livable. You know, we had to get a little tiny stepladder to get in and out of it, but it was still livable. We ended up getting it fixed, but we signed up for a driving course down in Ocala, Florida, a few months later, an RV driving course. And we managed to get it down there for that, and that was like a 3-day course, and that was the best thing I ever did, because he taught me how to back it, all the clearance and everything, and that's what saved our lifestyle. It really is.
You've probably told this story to your RVing friends.
Oh yeah,
a million times, and they're all nodding, and then they one up you.
Well, yeah, I mean it's not unusual. That's the thing about the RVing community, the full-time community, is you kind of have a willingness to share your mistakes so others will benefit. And it's not pleasant. It's embarrassing a lot of times. But when you do it around the campfire in the RV park, everybody's nodding their heads. Yep, been there, done that.
And the embarrassment kind of fades away the 20th or 30th time you've told the story.
Yeah, over time it was a non-issue.
Okay.
So we had it all fixed up and everything, but after that RV driving course, that summer, the summer of 2010, was our first summer on the road. What we did was...
Well, there's an important step in between there.
Okay.
You're living in a condo.
Yeah.
Which I've been to, visited many times. Ham radio is the way we met. And it wasn't like you had a 6,000-foot home that was overstuffed with stuff, but you had a lot of stuff.
Well, what we did was we lived in that condo, but when we knew we were going to have to downsize for this RV, we started getting rid of stuff, and then we moved from the condo to a little 1-bedroom apartment right across the street from the condos here in Cary. So we had enough stuff for that apartment to live in, and we continued to get rid of stuff. And I mean, we were putting stuff on Craigslist and giving furniture away to students at NC State for their dorms. And I mean, I gave away so much stuff that if I'd have took time to eBay it or Craigslist it, I probably could have made some money. Good stereo equipment. I mean, we got rid of everything. Whatever we could fit in that RV is what we kept. And we had a very happy lifestyle for 6 years. We really did.
So let's talk about year one to begin with. Talk about year one.
Oh, year one. Yeah, our first summer, we basically didn't travel too far from home. We went up to the Midwest to see the kids. They live in Illinois. Spent some time with them, and then we wandered up through Pennsylvania and spent some time in York, Pennsylvania. And that was our summer when we basically did the Midwest and the eastern seaboard and then came back down. What we did was we spent the summers traveling from about first part of April until late October. And then the November, December, January, and February and March we'd spend in Florida. We had a couple of RV parks in Florida that we stayed in over the years. We had one that we finally settled on that we went back to like 4 straight years. And that was where we kind of decompressed after the summer because as great as the lifestyle is, you're pretty tired by the end of the summer because you're moving an average of probably once every week and a half or so. Some places we'd stay a week, other places we'd stay 2-3 weeks or whatever, but you're basically moving a lot. And when we moved, we weren't ones to travel all day. We would go at the most maybe about 5 hours, about 200 to 250 miles a day is what we tried for. And I was anal retentive about planning which parks we were going to. A lot of RVers are a lot more adventurous. They'll go and then about 3 o'clock they'll start looking, for an RV park to stop at. But I had to know where I was going.
Yep. Now you had even at that early point in technology, you had the Google.
Yeah.
You could do lookups and.
Thank God for Google. I can't imagine how full timers did that back before with paper maps and everything, especially where some of these RV parks are. Yeah. But it was
but
awesome.
They did.
Yeah, they did. They sure did. And they were
and probably the swapping stories.
Yeah, they were like the pioneers. They did it the hard way. The old guys that are in their 70s and 80s that were doing it for 10 or 20 years. There's nothing nowadays. You're not going through anything like we did.
So the footloose part, the idea of absolute freedom, didn't really happen. Not that first year. You had things that were tying you. Things that almost anybody is going to have tying you to geography.
Not really. We had no more apartment. Like I say, everything we owned was in there. We just wanted, we visited our family, spent about a month at each of our sons. The rest of the time, it was up to us where we wanted to go. We had a rule that whenever we traveled, and we were going, like if we want to go from North Carolina to Pennsylvania, we'd go it in 200-mile chunks, but we'd never travel 2 days in a row. We always spent 1 day between travel days to let us look around an area and everything. But the 6 years ended up us doing different sections of the country each year. And that first year we did the East. I think the second year, I might get them out of order here because they all flow into each other. But the second year we might have done the upper Midwest, where we went up into Michigan and things like that. Then 1 year we went to the near West, which is as far as Denver. We did Nebraska and Oklahoma and all that stuff. And then had a year we did the far west, went all the way out to Seattle in the summer. Went all the way out to the southwest and up through California to Seattle, back across Montana and North Dakota, and then back down through the Midwest.
Seattle in 200-mile-a-day chunks.
Yeah.
With a day, a buffer in between. Mm-hmm. Probably you got there, slapped the side of Starbucks, we turned around and come home.
We spent 2 weeks in Seattle. Yeah. I mean, we were on the road 7 months. So, and sometime we did 300 to 350 miles if it was a long day, if there was some place we wanted to get to. But we ended up seeing so much. We hit all 48 states. By the middle of the 5th year, I believe it was, we ended up hitting all 48 states.
This is your wife's blog. She started it on the road.
Yeah.
She's still doing it. We haven't been on the road for a while.
Yeah, still doing it, telling about our boring life in Florida now as old people retirees.
And this map here, we're going to see a little bit bigger view of it if I dial down, I think. Yeah, that shows all the states that you've been in, which is all the states of the continental U.S.
Yep.
You couldn't drive to Hawaii.
We could Alaska. A lot of people do, but I just didn't want. It didn't interest us to drive to Alaska.
You did get up into Canada?
Yes, we did.
Ontario, I told you you're going to try to be part of the show. I told you. Not as mad as I thought you were going to be, but
yeah. We had a beautiful time in Canada. We went in up in Fort Drum, New York. I forget the name of the town up there. It was the 10,000 Islands area. Went in there and visited some friends in Smiths Falls, Ontario. spent a couple weeks with them, and then we took the Canada Highway across all the way over to Sault Ste. Marie and came back into the U.S. at Sault Ste. Marie.
Where you were stopped by customs and they busted you for the drugs.
Yeah, really. And Canada's different, man. I mean, a lot of tree, a lot of wilderness in Canada. We ended up in some campgrounds where we had no TV, no internet, and basically nothing.
Yep. Now, I took a motorcycle trip back in '86, a little bit earlier, and some of that was a lot through the northern part of the U.S., and then I went up into Canada. Now, my impression was, although there's still a lot of empty space up there, you're going through Montana and Idaho and northern Minnesota, and it's empty.
Yeah.
There are no people living up there.
Yeah.
And you cross the Canadian border, and boom, there's little towns everywhere.
We didn't feel that way going across that highway. There might have been little towns every now and then, but they were very little towns and kind of far apart to me. They really did. And
we on Highway 2?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
And we made an interesting error. We were sitting there thinking, we'll go along, won't worry about getting reservations for parks. I said, you don't really need them in Canada. So we're thinking we got to make reservations for 4th of July, because in summertime, you always make reservations for 4th of July and Labor Day.
Labor Day.
And we're saying, no, we don't have to worry about it. They don't celebrate 4th of July up here. But they do celebrate the 1st of July. And we almost ended up not getting anywhere to stay. And that's where we ended up in that park with nothing, no internet. Because I used my satellite dish. I had Dish and DirecTV over the 6 years. But I had my little satellite dish on a tripod. And every time we set up, I'd be out there and aiming that thing to the stars. And she'd be hollering at me, it's for 23, 24, giving me the signal and everything. And I'd finally get it zeroed in. But the farther north you go, the lower that sucker's pointed toward the horizon. So when you get up there in a campground in Canada, if you got a tree more than 5 feet high near you, you're not going to get the satellite because you're almost got it pointed down to the horizon. So that and the trip up to Maine, up to the New England, that summer we went to New England, were the challenge for the technology.
Yeah. I mean, motorcycle trip '86. Of course, there wasn't any satellite TV either.
Yeah.
I had AM radio.
AM radio.
Yeah, and most of the time out west, I would listen to KOA Denver.
There you go. Yeah. Campground of America, KOA. Yeah.
So, what turned out to meet expectations, exceed expectations, and be a total surprise?
Well, the lifestyle ended up being probably a little better than we thought. It ended up being a little less expensive to live on the road than sitting in one place, because basically, we were fortunate enough to be able to pay cash for our RV and for the trucks. We didn't have any payments. We whittled it down to where we had no payments. The only bills we had was our Verizon bill and our DirecTV bill. They were basically it. And what did meet the expectations was Wi-Fi. It was always a battle trying to get Wi-Fi. It really was.
No, there's a first world problem.
Yeah, I know. First world problem. It really is. Like I say, economy-wise, it ended up being a little less expensive to live on the road. She's telling me that every day as we're paying her, as we're living in Florida now. But so that wasn't any problem. And, as married couples who've been married a lot of years are wont to do, we were not concerned, but we were wondering what was it going to be like living with this person inside this 300 square foot tin can 24/7 year round.
Yeah. And I know Denise, and I don't understand how you did it.
Yeah, but that ended up being not a problem. We, our love is so deep, and we get along so great that wasn't an issue whatsoever.
And you could go in the bedroom and close the door.
Yeah, go in the bed. That's about all you could do. Yeah.
Who cares if it wasn't 3 floors away?
Yeah.
Out of the way.
And another great point of the travel was the great friends. I mean, there's nothing like the RVing community. There really isn't. They're just wonderful people. They'll do anything for you. A lot of times you're friends with people that you might see once a year for a 3-day period, but they're just great people. And a lot of them you get to know online and everything through blogs and chat rooms and things like that.
Yeah. And that was Denise's specialty.
Denise, she's the chat lady. She's on every night, and she's still on with a group of her friends that are RVers, and chats with them every night and everything. So that lets me watch my baseball games every night because she's over there in the chat room. But overall, we were real happy with it. The sights we saw in this country, it just still boggles my mind. I got probably about 3,000 or 4,000 photos that I keep on my phone, and I have them broken down by year in each section of the country. And if somebody asks what was Mount Rushmore like, I can just do a search on Mount Rushmore, bring up the pictures we took, And it was just wonderful. It really was. Yeah.
What didn't work?
What didn't
as
work?
well as what was a big surprise in?
Well, I won't say it was a big surprise or didn't work, but
well, of course you hit one of them your first day out.
Yeah,
you broke your house.
Yeah, broke our house. I would say the accumulated time caused me in particular to start feeling the pressure of the lifestyle, of the driving every day, pulling that big thing, pulling everything we own behind my truck. For the first few years, you're excited and everything for it, and you're enjoying yourself. But I think about the point we got to the 48th state when we fulfilled our dream of visiting every state and living at least one day in each state. That's when I started to, I won't say get antsy, but I wasn't looking forward to the hitching up and moving out quite as much as we had before. And can I tell what the straw that broke the camel's back?
Sure.
Yeah.
If it's not going to get you in trouble with
no, she knows it. It was a 6 year. We're coming back from our travels through the Midwest, and we were coming into Indianapolis. Going to stay at the Indianapolis State Fairgrounds, which is near downtown Indianapolis, and a lot of good RV parks and fairgrounds around the country, by the way. And we're coming in there, and about 10 miles out of Indianapolis, it started raining. And I mean, it rained the hardest I've ever seen it rain in my life. She said she couldn't see me, and she was like 20 feet behind me. She couldn't see me from her car. And I just saw barely the taillights of a car in front of me, and I'm following that car, and we're trying to make our way to the fairgrounds. And I understand that Indianapolis was having that kind of rain for several days. We pulled into the RV park and everything, and we go up to get a site assigned to us, and the lady says, I don't know whether we can find you a site because they're all starting to flood, but we'll see what we can do. So she found us a site that was on high enough ground that wasn't flooded, but there was people in the office there that their rigs were getting flooded out. They had nowhere to go. So we were kind of desperate. We took that site and everything, but as soon as we got set up, come in and soaking wet, and I sit down in my recliner, and I looked at her and I said, that's it.
Switch flipped.
Yep.
Almost overnight. Or over day.
Yeah. And we made plans that summer in Florida to make our plans to settle down. So.
Do you miss it?
So, yes, I do. So in some instances, I do. I don't miss the pressure of the driving and everything. And I don't know if I'd go back to full-time living, but I often tell her that I wouldn't be averse to maybe getting a small RV and just doing weekends and things like that. But I really don't see us doing that at this stage in our life. I really don't know. But
would you do a 2-3 week trip or a month or?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Get like a used RV or something like that and just go on a couple week trips here and there and everything. But
I know Denise would go in a heartbeat.
Yeah, she'd go in a heartbeat. And life is compromised.
Probably kills you to stay in a motel anywhere these days.
I like to hold this over. That she always said when we started this out, says just give me 5 years. That's all I want. So I gave her.
You got
6.
your 5 years, and a bonus. Yep. So one of the things that I know about them, because I've done some other interviews with folks, is the maintenance is maybe more than you might expect. You should plan that your house is going to cost you some money, and it's not going to earn.
You got that right.
It's not going to gain money.
Yeah, and I'm not a handy kind of guy either. I mean, I can barely hammer a nail, and to me, a big job is changing the flapper in the toilet. That's a big job for me. So there's a lot of RVers out there that are real handy, and they're out there keeping things up and all that stuff. But we had our rig checked every year, have always had a checkup at this place here in Florida that we had check it over before we hit the road. But we had a lot of breakdowns, and we used a lot of mobile RV specialists at parks. They always had the cards in the office of people that'll come out and fix things for you. We used those. We went through 3 refrigerators, those old propane-powered refrigerators. Went through 3 refrigerators, had the air conditioner go out in California. That pretty picture of our rig in front of Mount Shasta was about a week before one of our air conditioners went out in the rig, and it was 106 degrees in Redding, California when we were out there. So, and
I'm seeing snow up on the mountain. Yeah, it doesn't look like 106 degrees.
No, it was, trust me. But I think I figured it up. I think we averaged about between $2,000 and $2,500 a year in maintenance on that thing. in rig maintenance. And
how much does something like that cost? That
RV, the list price on it was about $110,000, and we got it for about $90,000. And I basically,
so you don't buy a house much anymore for that.
yeah, and they have some nice fifth wheels that are up in the $200,000 range.
Yeah.
So we got basically a good mid-level unit is what it was.
And you bought that one used, or you bought it new?
It was new.
Okay.
It was new. We like that brand. The research I did, we like that brand by Carriage, and I did the research and what it cost, got some cost sheets from the manufacturer, and I decided what I wanted to pay, and I sent an email to 3 dealers. Say, here's what I want to pay, here's what I want on it, who wants to sell it to me? And within an hour, I got an email back from the dealer over near Hickory. That's who we went and dealt with, and it took about 6 weeks for him to build it. A little factory up in Indiana that built it. They sent us pictures of it every couple of weeks as they were building it and everything. We were so excited. We really were. It was just amazing.
I remember.
Yeah.
It's not real estate. It doesn't appreciate.
No, sure doesn't. We found that out when I got rid of it. Yeah, we ended up getting a place in a 55-plus community in Florida, which, they have on every corner down there. And we put it on a consignment dealer, had a dealer try to sell it for us. It took about a year, and we finally sold it to the dealer. And we took a bath on the RV. I sold the truck for almost as much as we sold the RV for. That truck sold real quick. But I don't regret that. I don't regret that whatsoever. I look at that time as just basically like paying rent for the 6 years we're traveling around the country. It was a lot cheaper than if we had to pay $100 a night for a hotel. That's for darn sure. So.
Yep. Some other things, and we'll wrap it up. Were you worried about health? Did you have any health problems?
No health problems. Denise had a knee replaced in her last year.
From on the road?
Yeah. Well, it was when we were in Florida. She had it done. We were in place. But the only effect it had on us was normally when you have a knee replaced, they'll send you home and they'll send somebody out to do therapy for you about once, a couple times a week. But they found out where we lived, said you got to go up steps to get in it, and once you get in it, you got to go up steps to get from the living room to your bedroom.
No steps allowed.
She's not going to do that, so she ended up going to a therapy place to actually live in it for 2 weeks, and she did her therapy there. So that was the only thing. But overall health was good and everything. I mean, She drove the car up to the top of Mount Evans in Colorado, one of the 14ers, and at the top of that, being at 14,000 feet is enough to make you feel sick and everything up there. But then they had another quarter-mile trail up onto the top of the actual peak of the mountain, which we actually walked up, and so I'm proud of her. She was a trooper. She did a lot of hiking and everything. And
well, anybody who's traveling and going out of the way of even at least medium-sized towns is going to be at risk of some kind of medical issue, potentially.
Yeah.
But you're just out there all the time because you're generally not real close to a metropolitan area.
Yeah.
Small towns all have hospitals, or at least medium small towns do, or clinics.
Urgent care.
Oh, urgent care was the thing?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we have medical care because I have the TRICARE from the military.
Well, it's paid for.
It's paid for,
but you can't put that card on top of a broken arm and heal it.
Yeah, exactly. And
although you can charge a battery with a standing oil credit card. So I've heard.
Okay. Yeah, but we never had any serious that I can remember. We were both pretty healthy.
How about stories from all those people you were with?
There's always a hospital somewhere.
And you're with a lot of old people.
Yeah. And a lot of people that, if they're not 65 yet, the ones that retire early to do that was a big issue of how they got medical care because, they weren't working to get a medical plan or whatever. So it was an issue.
Get your hands off my Obamacare.
Yeah. Then you're going back into the government again, man.
Can't help myself.
Keep you steered away from politics for a while, man.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. But a lot of people ask us, too, what was their favorite place? And I always like to tell them that we have 2 places that we were just flabbergasted by, and one of them is southern Utah with the 5 national parks and the one ring around there. That was just unbelievably gorgeous. And the other place,
met my wife out there.
I know. We spent a few days with your wife out there.
Yep.
We sure did.
You got Zion, which is the best known, Grand Canyon, the north rim of the Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
Zion.
that's Arizona. But Then you got Zion.
But it's that territory. From Kanab, Utah, you can travel to all these in a day.
You got Zion, you got Arches, you got Canyon Lands, Bryce Canyon, and I forget the last one. Yeah.
I think that makes 5.
Yeah. And we went to New Mexico. We stayed in a little RV park that was right between Roswell. 1-day trip to go to Roswell and see the UFO museum and all that stuff there. And then the next day we went the other direction, about the same distance, and went to the caverns. What was it?
Carlsbad?
Carlsbad, yeah. Carlsbad Caverns, yeah. So that was a nice
the bats.
Yeah, but the other place, I said there was 2. The other one was it was Colorado Springs and Denver, because I got to stay at the RV park at the Air Force Academy. Being military, I could stay at military bases, and boy, that's in a gorgeous setting out there. It really is.
So I'm hearing
so neat.
I'm hearing from the Eastern establishment parks that they're getting no love from you. Everything is out west, and yet here you are in the east.
It's interesting. It's ironic, because the most beautiful places we saw are out west, but we would not live out there if somebody bought us $1 million house. We really wouldn't. We just don't like the
nice place to visit.
Nice place to visit, but every time we were out there, it was in the summertime too, which makes it a lot nicer.
Yeah, that's the other thing about this is everybody who does this, almost everybody, scatters to the south for the winter.
Yeah, either Arizona or Florida.
Because these things are not fun to drive in snow.
No, they're not.
And they're not insulated enough. They're insulated enough that you can handle some cold weather.
Yeah. Well, when we first bought it, the first winter we spent here in Raleigh in it. So we've spent a winter in that thing, and all I remember is taking the tank down every 3 days to get propane.
And that's a Raleigh winter. That's not a Minnesota winter.
Yeah, we had some snow though. Yeah. So, but
did you ever have to drive in snow?
No, never did.
So planned ahead.
A lot of rain, but no snow.
But you heard stories.
I heard
Once
stories.
again, there are the stories.
Yeah. But I will tell you though that those are our two favorite places. But I will tell you that there's beauty in every state. Don't let anybody badmouth any state, because there's beautiful places in every state in the nation. There really is.
One of my favorite places to ride, I prefer riding a motorcycle. I haven't done it now in 15, 20 years, but I prefer riding a motorcycle if I have the opportunity. But even driving the car, a place where everybody says you just get through as fast as you can because it's boring is like western Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, the prairie.
Yeah.
It's you have a little bit more undulating land than people think. It's not that flat.
Yeah.
To me, that is gorgeous.
Very pretty. It's interesting. We went from Kansas to Nebraska, and we're going through Kansas, and all the fields are beautiful. Let me get this right now. They were beautiful green wheat fields.
Amber waves of grain.
Yeah, and as soon as we went over the border to Nebraska, everything was corn, different color.
Yeah.
As soon as we went over the border, that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, Iowa will be a lot of corn too.
Yeah, but things like that are just I got to see the Field of Dreams, where the movie was made in Iowa, and what's that there? Buddy Holly Memorial. Remember Buddy Holly dying?
Yeah, in the plane crash.
We walked out on that little trail out in the middle of the boonies and saw the Buddy Holly Memorial. Just little things like that. And there were things where we'd always park at an RV park, get the rig set up, and she traveled behind me in her car because we could communicate. And she ran good interference for me in the car too. If I
a lot of these things they'll tow another car, but you decided to just keep driving it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to put the same miles on.
Yeah, because if I had to get over the left lane, she'd pull over to the left lane behind me, block traffic, so I could get over things like that. But after we'd set up, we'd use the car for doing our day trips and stuff. And we'd be traveling around an area, and we'd just see a sign pointing to something over here, and we'd say, "Let's go see what it is." We go check it out, and end up seeing some great stuff.
The freedom of the road.
That's the freedom of the road. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Right.
And with the power of the internet, you have so many resources for things to see and stuff like that.
Except bad Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to find out where we're going here. Can I get some Wi-Fi?
Yeah, most parks have Wi-Fi, but the average download speed is probably around 3 megabits.
3 megabits is not too bad. You're probably getting a couple hundred kilobits.
Yeah,
if it's just not working.
Yeah, we get 2 or 3 megabits a lot of time, but sometimes it would be out. The campgrounds were notorious for going cheap on Wi-Fi setups, so they'd be down half the time, and see them up there with a broomstick banging on the transmitter up there or whatever.
So no streaming. No streaming Netflix.
No. Oh man, we got settled down in our house here in Florida. we got out of the rig and settled in the house, and the first thing I did was go get online and order me a 65-inch LCD TV from Best Buy. They had that puppy set up, and Spectrum cable came out, and I had 100 megabits internet. I thought I died and gone to heaven. It was amazing. So yeah, we joined back into civilization. But,
Right.
but it was
So
great.
if somebody is dreaming of that lifestyle, they're doing their office drudgery right now. They're in their early, maybe mid-50s and closing 60, that they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe this is what they want to do. Do it. Don't do it.
I will tell you, the main thing they have to, the one question, the one thing they have to make sure of is that both of them have to want to do it. They both have to want to do it. If only one wants to do it, it ain't going to work.
Yeah.
And the second,
You had your chance. Shut up.
and the second thing you need to do is look at your relationship with your spouse. Will it survive that kind of thing? If your spouse is your favorite person in the world, it'll work.
It's going to be a lot of teamwork.
Yep, a lot of teamwork.
And again, between the two of you, yours switch flipped, and hers did not.
Yeah.
And I guess the deal was whoever decides first, we're going home.
We never had a plan.
We're going home.
We never had an exit plan.
Ah.
We never did. Not to my knowledge.
Did
you know.
did you think this might go on for another decade, or were you afraid it might go on for?
I did see it because the way I thought about it was once we reached all 48 states, a lot of the incentive was gone for me.
So you've seen it once. You don't really need to go back and see all these things.
And I guess
again.
that's a stupid way to look at it because there's so many other things you could see if you go out there. But by that time, that pressure of being on the road all the time was starting to. Because I'd get back to Florida after that trip out to Seattle. That was like a 4,800-mile summer, going out there and back and around the country.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, look at the miles we've gone for these 5 years or whatever it was so far, and not once have I come that close to having an accident. How long will that last? You know, because very rarely can you talk to somebody who's been a full-time RVer for 5, 10, 15, 20 years without having an accident or something bad go wrong. And
So you figured your number was coming up.
tell you, it's hard not to think that when you're out there towing a 18,000-pound trailer behind you.
Yeah.
Because the stopping range on those things is pretty long.
I never worried too much about that on the motorcycle trip, and the motorcycle trip was a total of 22,000 miles
Yeah,
in one summer.
yeah,
But I was at a campground in Arizona, I think, or maybe New Mexico, and it was early September. I was pretty provincial. I grew up in Chicago. In Chicago, early September is almost winter. I didn't realize that you get down into Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, that winter doesn't happen. It may not happen at all, but if it's going to happen, it's not going to happen until December. I didn't know I had weeks to months to go. But something, and I don't think it was really a weather worry,
yeah,
but a bit flipped in my head.
yeah.
And it said, go home.
It's time.
Time to go home.
Yeah,
And so from that campground, I think this was in northwestern New Mexico, a very rural place.
yeah,
I got to an interstate as fast as I could, Interstate 10, and I didn't have a home to go to. I was going to go stay with my dad for a while. and I just beat feet for the next 4 days and ended up there.
Wow.
After all summer long doing what you were doing, a couple 100 miles a day,
Yeah.
staying someplace for a couple of days or a couple of weeks,
yeah,
and not caring where I was going to be next. I didn't make reservations in advance because I didn't have any internet.
yeah,
It didn't matter. I get to someplace. I did hit the same thing about a holiday. I was in Vancouver at the World's Fair, and then I came down into Washington State, a little bit north of Seattle, and turned into the Cascades and toward the interior. Didn't know that the interior of Washington was a desert. Who knew? Who knew?
I know.
And I got to a park on July 2nd. And I said, oh my, or not July 2nd, on Labor Day moves around.
Yeah, yeah,
It was the Thursday before the Labor Day holiday.
yeah, yeah,
And I thought, oh my God, I'm staying here for a while because I'm not going to get in any place else.
Yeah.
So I got lucky. I got a place and
yeah.
just stuck it out.
Yeah.
July 4th, I was actually down here in North Carolina staying with my dad,
Yeah,
so I didn't
yeah.
worry about that.
It's funny. You grew up in Chicago.
Yeah.
People ask us, what's the worst place we visit? I always say Chicago.
Chicago's not a place you want to go in an RV.
That's just a horrible place for an RV. It really is. There's no parks around there. The one park we stayed at was at the Hollywood Casino in Joliet, and our kid lived in Homewood, about 45 minutes east.
Did you,
it's the closest we could
meet
get
Joliet, Jake, and Elwood?
Yeah, we went to the Joliet prison, visited that.
That's the tourist thing down there.
But the worst driving trip I had, worst leg of driving was between whatever the interstate is going from Milwaukee to Chicago one time. Oh my God, the trucks! I was a truck sandwich the whole way, man. It was just horrible. So, but yeah, we didn't care for Chicago.
Did most of your driving interstate, or did you get off?
Yeah, and that was another bone of contention among our RVers. A lot of RVers say if you're going to see the country, you got to get on the blue highways, get off the interstate, see the country and everything. But we had a different feeling about that. I felt safer on the interstates, believe it or not. I felt like it was easier to get help if you broke down on the interstate because you can tell I'm at a mile mark or whatever on the interstate, that type of thing.
Yeah. And out west, they're not crowded.
Yeah, they're not crowded. And we just seemed to, if we weren't doing is to travel around all day long and look out the window and see the country. People in big motor homes with a big giant front windshield where they're sitting up front by themselves towing their car, they're the ones that enjoy the travel and seeing the scenery through the window. We were wanting to go here to see the scenes, then go here to see and do some day trips around
for a couple days.
Exactly, yeah. So we had a little bit of a different view on that type of thing than a lot of people did. And I will tell you the two regrets we have, places we didn't see that I look back on, and I kind of regret not making the effort, was Yosemite National Park in California. We just never, we visit our friends in Las Vegas. We went from there up to Seattle, which is north of Yosemite, so we never went south to see it. And the other place was Glacier National Park. It was the summer we went to Seattle, and we're coming home across Idaho and into Montana. And we had to get off and go a couple hundred miles north because, Montana's pretty big. We had to go like 200 miles
Glacier's out of the way of everything.
It is. And we're resting overnight. One of our legs says, you really want to go to Glacier? It was getting toward the end of the summer. We're headed back and everything. And say, how many more mountains and waterfalls can we see? We'd seen so many. So we decided
we have to see another mountain.
So we blew off Glacier, and I kind of regret that because because the glaciers are going away, and it would be nice to have seen it before.
Yeah. Glaciers I have been to. I've never been to Yosemite.
Yeah. But we'd been to we didn't go to Yellowstone in the RV, but we visited there years before. Visited some friends that worked out there, so we spent time in Yellowstone. We saw a lot of the nice big national parks, and with the with a free card we got when we turned. Well, I got one for being in the military, but as senior citizens get a card where you can get into national parks for free.
I don't have it on me.
It's awesome.
It was when I turned 65. I got the lifetime card for $10.
Yeah,
I think it's now $100.
Is it really?
It's gone up quite a bit.
Wow.
And that's. Cindy says that's the one reason that she brings me along on the trips because I can get her into the parks for $10.
Oh, it's
$10 for the carload.
Yeah.
The card gets the carload in.
Yeah.
It's $10 for the card. Yeah. Now I think $100.
Yeah.
But if you're below that, below 65, then every year it's $20, $30.
Well,
maybe more.
I'm a disabled veteran, so I got a free card. So
yeah.
I don't know.
You put in your service. Yeah, I'm a draft dodger.
Yeah.
They charge me extra.
And it's funny, we have a couple of the real good friends of ours that she always jokes that, if anything ever happened to Howard, her husband, she's going to find a retired military guy to go RVing with because everything would be a lot cheaper. They get to stay in these nice military campgrounds and stuff. So.
Yeah. You paid your dues. Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It was my honor. Yeah.
And that's not sarcastic. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks.
From a draft dodger. Yeah. My dad was a captain in the Army in World War II.
Awesome.
He said, as my 1A card arrived in the mail, you are not going in the Army. You are not going to be cannon fodder. And he found a college I could get into with my F+ 5.5-year high school career.
Really? Well, I was draft motivated. I wasn't drafted, but I was draft motivated. I got my Army draft notice, and the next day I went down and saw the Air Force recruiter. Yeah. I figured I had a better chance of staying alive during Vietnam in the Air Force.
They didn't run point on too many ground assaults.
Yeah.
So, and you also, I believe, were mostly shoving paper around the office.
Yeah, I've worked in personnel. Yeah, I flew a desk. Typing and griping and filing and smiling.
Needed all that. I would have wanted to have been the Good Morning Vietnam guy.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have been able to because I wasn't any good at that point.
Yeah, there's an old joke in the personnel world in the military saying, "Did you go to Vietnam?" Says, "No, I didn't go to Vietnam. I was in personnel." Said, "I knew personnel guys in Vietnam." Said, "Not good ones." So, yeah, I
and now we have drifted into the military stories.
Yeah, I know.
This episode of the Triangle Talk Show is brought to you by the U.S. military.
Hug a veteran today.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for the story and for putting up with the political
Appreciate
stuff.
that. Thank you.
That will be it for this episode of the Triangle Talk Show. Let me see if I can get my thing over there. 6 years on the road. 6 years on the road, and I'm going to...
6 days on the road, and I'm never going home again. Never going home again.
No, I'm going home and sleep in my bed tonight.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know.
Some trucking song.
Something like that. Yeah. Episode 25, August 20... Did I get the right date? Yeah, August 23rd, 2018. I am... my guest is Jim Walter. Whoops, I'm pushing all the wrong buttons here. The Road Warrior. We worked for a while on figuring out what that title was going to be.
Well, I went from being a road warrior to a road warrior. I guess that's appropriate, I guess.
That works. And I am Gary Pierce, and that is it for this episode of the show. Over and out. Oh, you know how it works. You've seen the ham show. Okay, got to push the goodbye button off of YouTube